I love music.
Nothing feels better than getting on a kit at a gig with my good friends who are great musicians and playing my heart out and trying to keep up with them. I love that.
Music is who I am, and singing is who I am.
I really don't know how I'd be without it, because I've known it my entire life.
If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that people love music. But in addition to passion, it's been important to them in several different ways.
It's impacted my life, obviously, in many ways.
Music has always been important to me since I was little. I think it definitely had a big impact on my life as far as where I am now.
And for many people, music goes much deeper than that.
Everyone's a drummer. Everyone's a musician. Everyone identifies with music. Why? The first thing we hear is our mother's heartbeat. We can identify that as one of the first sounds ever, followed by voices and such and what have you. But there's a beat and there's a cadence that's happening in every single one of us.
Music was very much linked to a sort of spiritual center, I guess. It felt like music in general, to me, felt like something greater than ourselves.
Today's research even suggests that there are educational benefits to music. Funding for these programs are often the biggest problems. Funds have been cut in more than 80% of U.S. school districts since 2008. So that leads us to two questions. Is music important in our schools, and how can we support it? The rest of this video will touch on a few topics, including the history of music education in U.S. public schools, an exploration of funding, why music helps us learn and with what, why music is important in our schools, and how to support music education and integration. So let's get started.
In the public education in America, it was brought in the late 1830s.
Actually, in Massachusetts, at the Boston Academy of Music, which still exists.
A singing teacher named
Lowell
Mason.
Yes, exactly.
Lowell Mason. And he's known as the father of music education in America.
He petitioned the Boston School Board of Education to try to encourage them to give it a pilot test to work with singing in the schools, and they had to appoint a special committee and they had to think about it, and finally they agreed to try it for a year. And after the first year, everybody was thrilled, and so that kind of opened the door to what was happening.
Before that, there were some private small singing schools, and people would sing in church because music was a huge part of religion back in the early colonial days and in the early days of America.
Actually, it was a lot of singing schools where the music teachers, well, they weren't really music teachers, they were more choral leaders, church choir type people. They would travel town to town and just stop by and teach music. And then they would be hosted by a community member or the school teacher or something like that.
Mainly it was for leading songs in congregations. So it had a huge interplay with church and religion and bringing music in more apt people to sing.
And so music education's foundation is strictly singing. That's all that was done, and that was critical to not only the reinforcement of their religious beliefs, which primarily it was, but also to start reinforcing the sense of community. And so the instrumental side of it didn't really come until around World War II. In World War II, there were a lot of military bands. And so that sort of sparked an interest in bringing instrumental music into the schools. So then we had both. We had vocal and then we had instrumental. And then the general music part of it, sort of classroom music that you might remember when you were little, sort of emerged in the 60s, I want to guess. And so we have now maintained those three strands, instrumental, vocal, and general music. From a very early time, public school taxes funded education. So once Lowell Mason got music in the schools, that became part of the curriculum, and so it was funded by taxation, which obviously we still do.
I know firsthand that they do happen. When I was in high school, I think I was like a junior, there was a town hall meeting for cuts to the arts programs. They were going to cut the budget for that department and for the clubs, basically. And it was kind of shocking how few people were there, first of all. We didn't succeed. They did end up cutting it. It was already super small.
When there are proposed cuts, that's the time for, people to step up and try to appeal to the wider community for reasons why it would be good to have music in the schools. But it's just ongoing.
I think either last year or 2 years ago in the Laconia School District, there was a huge, budget working, and they were cutting arts funding. And so people were all advocating to be like, no, don't cut the music program, save it. And, music ed majors had to come from Laconia, or music teachers in the area were like all, up in arms about it. And we're like, no, save it. And so I don't know what the end result was, but I know that it didn't get completely cut from the school.
My teachers were working with very little, but my teachers were probably overworked. The class sizes they were dealing with just by themselves were huge.
Elementary school music specialists rated the support for their teaching somewhat or very inadequate in a variety of areas, including funding, facilities, materials, equipment, tools and instruments, instructional time in the arts, and the number of arts specialists.
In terms of how much has it been an issue over time, I can't speak to the really old days. I can speak to the span of my career, which is 33 years now. I can't believe it. We have always been fighting the fight. It has never stopped. There isn't a day in my career where I haven't tried to talk somebody into something or try to explain the importance.
Our brain is a bunch of connections, and basically as we get older, as children get older, it's a process of kind of pruning out certain connections that we don't use. There's this saying, use it or lose it. So the more you use certain connections and receptors in your brain, you get to keep those, whereas the others that you don't use at all, really you lose.
Music stimulates many parts of the brain at once, which leads to a strengthening of the connections throughout it. By strengthening these connections, we're also strengthening the skills that singing, playing, or listening to music requires. Many of the skills strengthened by music are also essential to other functions and disciplines, including mathematics, memory, reading, history, language acquisition, and so many more.
Happiness, I would say the things are retained more because it's hands-on learning. And we all know now that cooperative learning, hands-on, project-based learning is the way to go.
I think the brain does the best when you tap it in a way that isn't pencil and paper. It's hands-on.
There's a famous saying in education, tell me I forgot, show me I remember, involve me I understand. And music really engages and involves people at a very deep emotional level, and allows the brain to really make lots of connections that otherwise wouldn't be made to the material without the music component of it.
So why might music be more effective than other traditional methods of learning, such as book reports, class discussions, or lectures? The answer is actually really simple, because they like it. Many studies suggest the link between passion and retention. The more you like something, the more you'll retain. As we know, people love music, and therefore there is a greater likeliness that students will engage and learn.
When you're happy and you like what you're doing, that's when you remember things. When you're pushed to the edge for a factual test the next day, it's in 1 year and the test is done and it's gone. But songs and movement and pieces of music are never gone.
I think there's like an emotional attachment that comes through it. I know there is for me.
And seeing how fun it is, all the kids are like, oh, see you in music class tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, that's so great. So having those hands-on activities, I think, for young kids it's more enjoyable to learn, so they're more willing to learn, as opposed to, you know, going to like class lectures and having the paperwork in class. At that age, they don't know they're retaining this information that my mentor and I want them to retain. But, you know, I'll see them walking down the halls in their class and they're humming some kind of song that we did in class the previous day, or when I review an activity, they'll start singing along before I even get to be like, all right, we're going to review this, or, you know. So I think that because we're making it a fun environment in the music room, that they're subconsciously retaining the information that they're not even knowing it.
But when it comes to, you know, test taking and lectures and trying to just throw things at kids that they're not going to really vibe with unless you make it interesting and fun, I feel like music is, you know, people can attach to that much easier.
Music helps to develop a lot of the same skills that we need to do math, because they share a lot of the same traits, from spatial reasoning, sequential reasoning. The way that you're thinking in beats and rhythm and patterns like that helps to develop those connections in your brain, those skills in your brain that we need.
I feel like mathematics can in many ways be taught on a basic level better with music than actual, you know, 2 + 2 = 4, you know.
Music has a very math base, which I've always struggled with math. When I was younger, I used to take piano lessons for a little bit because it is very educating, I find.
Music is math. I mean, if you listen to Bach is my favorite example. You know, the way everything aligns and things fit together, it's all numbers. You know, rhythm is numbers. Everything is numbers. And so students that become musically aware also become more mathematically aware.
Counting measures, you know, learning how to count spaces and lines and which notes add up to, you know, which notes equal which line, this, that, and the other thing. Is it natural or flat? All these components are very similar to mathematics.
I think at the very lower levels with addition and division especially comes into play with counting. When you get into older music classes, certainly problem solving can be part of the process.
Even in some of the most basic music lessons, you begin to learn about the whole notes and the half notes and the quarter notes and the eighth notes and the 16th notes. And that is an introduction to fractions. So while you're playing music or listening to music or reading music, you are also strengthening those skills that will be applicable towards mathematics as well.
Songs and music create extra links and extra richer neuron connections that help us remember things long term when they're put to music versus when they're not.
Hello. Hi, Mom. So do you remember when I was really little and we watched Blue's Clues and there was that episode about the planets?
Yeah.
Do you still remember that song?
Yeah.
Would you mind singing it for me?
The sun's a bright star, Mercury's bright too. Venus is the brightest planet, Earth's home to me and you. Mars is the red one, and Jupiter smoke light. Saturn's got those icy rings, Uranus is on its side. Neptune's really windy, and Pluto's really small. No, you wanted to name the planets, now we named them all.
How old was I when that song came out, do you think?
3 or 4.
3 or 4. So that was closer to like 18 years ago. My mom can remember a song from 18 years ago.
Learning words to a melody and a rhythm help you retain it better.
Music is a powerful way to memorize. The things I remember best are the things I learned through music. I can tell you the name of every single kid in my 3rd grade class solely because our teacher made up a song that included the name of every kid in the 3rd grade class. Alana, Joel, Miguel, Andrew, Jesslyn, Kathleen, Erica, James, Elaine, Kelly, Gretchen, Bilal, David, Melissa, David, Kelly, Kristen, Ryan, Alana, Jennifer, Jamie, Stephanie, Rachel, Ashley, Yash, Roberto. I can't tell you the name of all the other students in any of my other classes all throughout my life, but man, I can tell you the names of all those 3rd grade students.
Is it a In music, developing skills such as rhythm and pitch are incredibly important. In terms of language acquisition, they're also incredibly important.
You have to learn how to pronounce different languages if you sing in different languages, which I've done a bit, and that teaches you not only how to approach pronunciation of words you don't understand, but how they feel in your mouth, how to best use your voice, which helps you not only, of course, in singing music, but in public speaking, presentation. So it teaches you to be aware of how your voice feels, how you learn words best, and how you approach a new word.
Learning music is pretty similar to learning a language. There is so much to it. There are endless things in writing and reading. Stimulate parts of your brain that also are responsible for you absorbing a language.
Music can't be music without movement, especially in the general classroom music. And it's great because it can address both gross and fine motor skills. So gross being full body, we can do locomotor or non-locomotor movement, and fine motor, even with little kindergartens doing finger plays and finger games like that, is a great place for that to integrate.
Obviously, if you're playing the piano, which is something else I did for a while, it helps you have a little bit of dexterity and so forth. I mean, try playing Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee. Wow, are you flying all over the place. You just can't play that kind of music without some really good hand-eye coordination, some really good motor skills.
We got me into piano lessons, and it actually started out as a therapy because I was born 2 months premature. So there were a lot of complications with dealing with noise and working on large and fine motor skills. And so that was starting out as, a therapy for me so I could become desensitized to noise and be able to, work my fingers and my arms and everything.
Youth and students and kids and children that have experience to music just learn so many essential life lessons like compassion, discipline, hard work, working with others, teamwork. I mean, there's so many life lessons embedded in the musical experience. Empathy and the ability to relate to different cultures and different times and have a better understanding of diversity.
It teaches people to be self-reliant, self-motivated, self-aware.
Without the opportunity to learn how to think creatively, engage in critical thinking, all of these different right brain skills, if those neurons and those things aren't really trained and used and strengthened in school, then the kids are going to lose them. And it's, our society ultimately will miss out in many ways.
The rhythmic abilities that are enhanced by playing music are also correlated to early reading skills. A study found that musically trained children are better at processing sounds and language than non-musically trained children. The same researcher actually has an earlier study that found that learning music could improve concentration, memory, and focus by strengthening neural connections and functions. Music basically remodels and rewires the brain to improve the connections between sounds and meaning.
I know a lot about history, mostly because I really vividly remember the music that I learned, from these different time periods and cultures that really gave me a much deeper understanding of the human experience and what those folks were going through at those different times. And also help kind of connect it back to my life today, which, in a very powerful way. And I just feel like without having music as a huge element of my learning history, I would not understand history at all to the degree that I do.
The neural connections in our brains communicate through electrical currents or pulses, which are also known as brainwaves. Music helps to create an atmosphere by stabilizing our emotional and physical rhythms, which helps attain a state of deep concentration and focus, which gets our brains into that alpha brainwave state. Having your brain in this state is really beneficial for learning massive amounts of information. This would make learning vocabulary, memorizing facts, reading just incredibly effective while being engaged in music.
I believe that STEM and science are essential in education. They teach us how to be more comfortable in our world. They teach us how to have some control over our environment. I also feel, though, that music education and the humanities and the arts are equally important because they teach us how to kind of have power with and be with our communities.
There's so many ways to teach teamwork, whether that be like in cross-country, track, or whatever it might be. But like singing in a chorus with 4-part harmonies is a pretty good, if not better, way of teaching teamwork.
I would definitely say I've used it most for self-expression.
These programs are outlets for children.
You need your arts to express like everything that can't just be described in words.
It's really helped me express myself to others, be confident in what I like and who I am, both artistically and in general.
In my work as a therapist and a social worker, I'm constantly using music and dance and, creative movement and the arts to reach kids that I just can't reach verbally.
I'm not the best at expressing myself through words, so music has helped with that.
Through music, I'm meeting people and different, I have jobs through it now, and it's very important to me.
Music unites us. Music brings us together, and it gives children that sense of unity and that sense of connection, with other people, so that we can really learn how to be a society and learn how to be a community.
Social emotional learning is definitely an important part. We really can't even begin to think about education in content areas if we don't have healthy children. And we give them breakfast and lunch and dinner. We provide them with recess for getting some of these things out, although recess time is so limited. We bring all these things into the schools for all children, but we really haven't done the social emotional piece yet. And I see it every day in this job. The amount of unofficial counseling that I provide is astronomical.
Music, teaching kids about music teaches kids to appreciate the soul and the spirit behind everything in their world.
Emotionally, it helps people cope, I feel.
It's impacted my life very much so. It's got me through a lot of hard times.
I probably wouldn't have found I won't call it a safe space, but like a space where I can go to and I know that I can just be myself and be comfortable. Like in middle and high school, socially wasn't too great, so I found social solace in the music room and the music program.
It was extremely helpful socially. I was a kid that was bullied a lot in school. But our high school band was a very unified group because they were united through music and through discipline. So the second I got to high school, the bullying stopped because the upperclassmen in the band were not going to allow one of their fellow band members to be bullied by anybody in the school.
It's a foundation in the arts that unfortunately in this country, kids can't always receive outside of the public school system.
I feel like music is one of those things that can take you very many places, whether you're playing or listening. I know for me, when I listen to music, I totally go into my own little zone, and I let it, just come over me and, let it take me to where it was meant to take me.
We are so scattered in what we do today. We're pulled in 1,000 different directions. And music is one of those disciplines that truly kind of slows us down, grounds us, allows us to be a part of it.
In this world where we're constantly trying to control, we're constantly trying to improve and build and make things better and research and study and categorize and organize and all of these things, music just allows us to be.
Teaching them that at a young age, that art is okay, means everything. It means that life isn't just a job. Life is how you make it. You wouldn't be exposed to an integral part of being a human.
I believe that music education is essential to educating the whole student and the whole child and the whole human being.
I think the biggest disadvantage is that we are not looking at the whole child, and we are not recognizing the essence of humanity and culture that is connected and communicated through music.
They can donate, not just money, but they can donate their time with volunteering in any way that could happen. They can also go to the concerts that the students perform in.
Just being involved with the community, to be aware of what's going on in your school system, and just be a part of that group that says, listen, this shouldn't be happening, or this should happen. And
well, for one, if the school district where your child or children go to school doesn't already have a music program, talk to the school board, talk to any interested teachers who maybe want to start that program in whatever way they can, and fundraise with local parents, local guardians. My mom, throughout middle and high school, was a part of our POPS, the Parents of Performing Students organization, where the parents and guardians of all the kids who were already in the theater and music departments, they would organize the fundraisers. They would plan little banquets to celebrate our achievements, which is so valuable coming from a parent, that a parent supports what you do and loves you for what you do is integral to a child's development.
Every March, there's it's a month called Music in Our Schools Month, and so a lot of school districts around America will put on concerts to be like, hey, Music in Our Schools Month, come check out our concert. Where the kids, like in the chorus will sing or the band will perform. It shows the parents, hey, this is what's going on in your child's music class.
I would say other teachers, non-music teachers, can support music in the schools by expressing their interest to their students about what is going on in music class. Maybe if it's a general music class, the classroom teacher comes in at the end and says, what did you do today? Can you sing a song for me today? Lend a helping hand when it's a concert season.
Encouraging music education at school, I had to choose between chorus or band. It was or some other things. And I was amazed at the amount of people that did other things. And I remember in particular some staff at the middle school encouraging kids away from music, because almost have this mentality of like, oh, go with something a little more solid. Music's fun. We all love music, but like, take this instead,
Community members who are parents, obviously encouraging their children to be a part of music.
I had friends who were signed up for band, and last minute their mother or their father or their parents or one of their teachers convinced them not to. And it's like, really?
Community members who are not parents, they are taxpayers. I think going to public performances, volunteering, a lot of times, especially older citizens love to come in, and if they're from a different country, they'll share their cultural background and often the music and food and dance and really make it an authentic experience. And through the budgets, supporting the taxes that go to fund education, and if they see that there's a particular area that's in consideration for cutbacks, or to go in, listen, speak on behalf of the programs.
So there you have it. Yes, people love music. But there are also educational benefits, developmental benefits, physical benefits, emotional benefits, and many more. Now is as important a time as ever to support music in our schools. Thanks for watching!
Alana, Joel, Miguel, Andrew, Jesslyn, Kathleen, Erica, James, Elaine, Kelly, Gretchen, Bilal, David, Melissa, David, Kelly, Kristen, Ryan, Alana, Jennifer, Jamie, Stephanie, Rachel, Ashley, Yash, Roberto,